We'll continue with our theories and methods and theory. So today we want to talk about difficulties in implementing a research strategy. So we have the research stage. So for the research stage, it starts with selection of topic. So when you are selecting the topic, the problems about selecting the topic is that you could have problem about funding it. That means finding the finance to carry on with the project, or finding respondents. So those are the problems we face when you are selecting your topic. Okay. Do you get the point here? Yes. So the first stage is about research stage, which is selection of the topic. So when you are selecting the topic, the problems you could encounter as a researcher is finding someone to fund the project, or finding respondents, those that you're going to, the participants, those that you are going to involve in the questioning. Yes. I think that is clear. Yeah. The second one, reviewing existing evidence. So it might be difficult to find existing evidence. This might mean that the researcher has to look for many possible sources. So the second point is that it might be difficult. Mm-hmm. It might be difficult to find, research comes from a topic, a problem that has to be solved, right? Yeah. So no matter how it is, there's nothing like new topics in the world. All these topics are fine-tuned, they are almost the same. Yeah. Maybe they just have to, restructure them also. So when the topic is there, when the problem is solved, when you have the topic you want to find out, the first thing you think about is sources, things that you have known, or things that are known about the topic. That will determine what are not known yet. So the first thing is, what are those things that have been known? What are those things that have been written about the topic? So if you don't find any, then it becomes like you have to start the research afresh. That is the problem. Do you get it?
If you don't find any evidence.
If you can't find, yes, you will continue to search.
And you don't find.
If you don't find, yes.
So you're going to start from the zero.
Yeah, you have to start from zero. But before you start at that time, you would have tried to check every possible sources.
You don't find it.
You might find anyway. Mm-hmm. But the problem is, when it comes to the topic you have chosen, you need, if it becomes difficult to find literature review of those topics, yeah, then you have to continue to search and search and search and search for every possible sources. That's the second stage there. And you understand the problem there, right?
Yeah.
Now, the third stage, developing a hypothesis or aim. Yeah, this stage brings about difficult choices, as decisions must be made about the approach. So, as soon as you come up with an hypothesis, now, how do you approach this hypothesis? You need to make decision. Okay. And when you talk about decision, making decisions is about how do people feel about this topic? What are those things you need to do about this topic? What are the ethical concerns about this topic? All these things you have to put into consideration.
Yes.
Before you take your before you make your choice. Is developing a hypothesis or claim clear?
Yeah.
You need to approach it. How do you approach it? What are those ethical instance about it? You need to know. Then the next one. The next one, choosing a method. The method choosing might not produce data that can support or disprove the hypothesis. So now that you have your hypothesis, okay, you need evidence to support, you need information, you need evidence to support or to disprove that hypothesis, yes or no?
Yes.
So that's what they are talking about here. So you need to find a method that will bring about results. Mm-hmm. Get the point here. Your hypothesis is there. Hypothesis, as you need statements to prove the hypothesis right or wrong, yes or no?
Yes.
So you need a method to be able to prove that hypothesis right or wrong. So you need to use the right method. Maybe structuralism, maybe interpretivism. Do you understand?
Yes.
That's what they're talking about there. Then the next one, implementing the research method. They said the problem at this stage might be ethical, practical, or theoretical. So now that you want to execute the research,
yeah,
you have to think about the ethical aspect of it. What is moral? What is immoral about it? Mm-hmm. Practical. Do you think it's doable or not doable? Do you feel you're going to have people available to carry it out or not? Do you think you can do it all alone? What do you need to make it done? So that is the practical aspect of it. And theoretical aspect of it. What have you written and what are you supposed to write? what has been known, what is yet to be known. So do you understand? So all these are part of implementing the research method. So for implementing the research method, the problems about implementing research method is how practical it could be. Is it theoretical or not? And how ethical is the research? Is it clear?
Yes.
So these are stages of research and the problems that we could encounter as sociologists. So now we go on to ethical issues affecting the choice and implementation of a research strategy. Here I go. Since sociological research involves people, it raises issues about the welfare of both the researchers and the respondents involved. Ethics is about knowing what is right and wrong. That means the moral aspect of what we do. So since sociology is about people, then it means that we need to be conscious on how we deal with people. Do you understand? That's the point I made there. So ethical issues which involve values are moral, knowing what is right or wrong. During the research, it is possible to carry out research that harm people or damage their reputation. That is why there is code of conduct. So for code of conduct, these are guidelines on what we must do, what we are supposed to do when we are carrying out our research. Why do we have the code of conduct? We have the code of conduct to guide us on the right path of whatever we have to do. Because if not, a lot of people will be harmed as a result of our research. We won't care about people's welfare. We won't care about their confidentiality. We won't care about their privacy if we don't follow code of conduct. Do you get it here? What we are saying is this. When you have to implement research strategy, that means you want to start your research.
Yeah.
There is what we call ethical issues.
Okay.
So ethical issues comes about the moral aspects of the research methodology, the moral aspect of your research. So basically, if research are going to be carried out, it means it involves people. When you need to know about people, you need to be careful, you need to be conscious, you need to be careful not to harm them, not to make them unhappy, not to get them angered.
Yeah.
So how is this going to be possible? This can only be possible if there are guidelines on what we do. There are regulations, there are regulatory body that guides what we do. They check and balance what we do. So that's the point they're making there.
Yes.
Do you understand now?
Yes.
So that brings about the code of conduct. Do you get it now?
Yes.
All right. So for code of conduct, so I go to yes, we have now. Yeah, I got ethical guidelines researchers follow. So we said code of conduct are ethical guidelines that we as researchers we have to follow, right?
Yes.
So the first one is the participant must not be harmed. The participant involved consent. I'm going to explain this after just the listing. The researcher should not invade the participant's privacy. Participants should not be deceived, not to be lied to. Don't deceive them. So then there's anonymous. When we talk about anonymous here, we're talking about keeping the name or identity of the participants. It remains anonymous. It has to remain anonymous. It doesn't want you it doesn't want you to disclose his name or his identity to the public. So it's part of code of conduct.
Yeah.
So sometimes you see some articles written, and at the end of it, they wrote anonymous.
Yeah.
So the name is withheld. The identity is withheld. Is it clear?
Yes.
So, and there's confidential, which means the individual's answer must not have traces. It should remain as private as possible. You must not be able to link their answers, their response to them. The people of the public must not be able to link their response to the respondents. You asked me some questions, I answered. You are the researcher, I'm the participant, I'm the respondent.
I don't have to link it to you.
So whatever answers I give,
Yeah.
my answers must not be able to be traced back to me by the public.
So it's like
that means whatever I have said must be private as much as possible. You must not make a mistake to involve or to write anything that would make them to trace those answers to me.
So like don't.
You, as a researcher, you give reports, yes or no?
Yeah.
So these reports you're given, those answers you've gotten, you must ensure that they are private as much as possible.
Yes.
That is the point. So it won't be like, oh, this thing that was said, Mr. Abdulatif usually say this thing.
Yeah, that's not.
You have to phrase it. You have to rephrase it. That is the point there. Did you get it now or not?
Yes.
Okay. Now we start. So these main guidelines, now let's consider, we have the consideration of the guidelines the researcher must follow. That means we're talking about the consideration of the code of conduct.
Yeah.
The first one, harm. It is wrong to harm participants in a study. At the same time, it is difficult to decide what harm means. To know what harm means is in okay, or to know what harm means in advance. In respect to the participant, what I'm saying is this: participants must not be harmed. But how are you going to know that you're not going to harm the participants?
Yeah.
How do you know that you're not going to harm the participant even in advance that you're about to start? How are you sure that the participant is not going to be harmed? So harming the participant doesn't mean that you physically get involved with him.
Mhm.
It might mean maybe you get him angry based on the questions you asked him.
Yes.
Do you understand the point here? So whatever we have to ask the participants, they must be those things that would not get them upset. Do you get the point there?
Yes.
Do you get the point there?
Yeah.
That's the first one. The second one, informed consent. So participants must understand what the study is all about before you start. Do you get it? So I wrote, the participant must agree to take part by fully understanding what the study is all about. People have rights to refuse to take part in the research. So as participants, you have to let them, you have to unveil everything to them, all the scenario to them, that these and these and these are what we're going to ask you. These and these are what we are expected of you.
Mhm.
This is why we are carrying out this research. They have to know. By then, they would understand that if they will be able to say if they want to get involved or not.
Yeah.
Do you understand the point there? So you have to you need to get the consent of participants before you start the interview or the research.
Yeah.
The third one. So even if you have the consent of the interviewee or the participants or the respondents, even if you have their consent, they still have the right to answer some questions and to reject some questions.
Yeah.
Do you get it? That's where we go into invasion of privacy.
Okay.
So having obtained the participants' informed consent, the privacy has to be respected. So participants may accept to partake in the research, but may refuse to answer questions which invade their privacy. So they might have even accepted to participate, to get involved in your research study, but it doesn't mean they're going to answer all your questions. If some questions are answered and they felt that it's going to invade their privacy, they have the right to say no. So you wouldn't say, but we had your consent into this. Why are you not answering this question? So you should understand that participants have the right to say no or to refuse a question if it involves unveiling their privacy. Is it clear?
Yes.
So that's about invasion of privacy. And the last one there, deception. For deception, yeah, basically we're talking about researchers not lying. You must not lie to your participants. You must not lie to get them involved.
Yeah.
When you do that, it is unethical. It is deception. You lied. It is unethical. So, yeah, I wrote, the researcher must not lie about what the research is about. What the research is about. For example, I made an example here. Sometimes researchers might go to a classroom and say to the students that they are helping the teachers. They are helping the teachers out.
Okay.
Meanwhile, they are studying the behaviors of the students. That is deception.
Very good.
Sometimes, for example, I'm making an example here.
Yeah,
In a case like researchers coming to a classroom,
yes,
saying to the students that we are here because of your teachers, we want to help your teacher out on something.
But they
Meanwhile, they are studying the behaviors of the students. That is deception. It's a lie.
yes.
It is unethical. Is it clear?
Yeah.
So that's all about difficulties in research strategy. I think it's clear, right?
Yeah. So why did you write here?
Yeah, I didn't write. I did it intentionally
Okay.
because it's test yourself.